cooperation. That same week, Governor Culver addressed the chamber and he released the entirety of his $6.4 billion spending plan. When the auditor critiqued that plan, one of the things he complimented the governor on was the transparency in that plan. And Iowans are not seeing that same transparency and disclosure in the legislative budgeting process right now. The governor laid out 3 principles in his budget: that we should spend no more than we take in, we should limit expenses, and that we should protect our cash reserves. We agree with that philosophy. However, with the Democrats releasing only a portion of the budget for Iowans to review, it's very difficult, and in fact no legislator should be voting on individual pieces of a budget without knowing the entirety of what that budget is. How much money are we going to spend? Where are we going to spend that money? And where are we going to get the revenues to cover it? And it's increasingly important this year with a $350 million budget gap. The governor in his budget covered that gap with $100 million in new taxes, roughly $100 million in one-time money, $75 million from the Senior Living Trust Fund, as well as $90 million of infrastructure money that will now be used for general fund purposes. The legislative Democrats have the same responsibility to cover that gap. They're asking members to vote on budgets without telling us where the revenue is coming from or how we're going to spend it. And Iowans deserve to know more. The minority party, very honestly, has very little impact on the process. One of the impacts, though, that we can have is that we're standing today to say until Iowans are shown the entirety of the budget, we will not be supporting any individual piece of the budget. And that's very serious, and it's significant, because Iowans deserve to know, and the only way that we can try and shed light on this, we've asked repeatedly on the floor for the balance sheets to be brought forward, but we've not seen those. So our hope is that through making Iowans aware that they're not getting full information on the budget, we can truly see that so we can work in a bipartisan fashion to meet Iowans' needs and fund it appropriately. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are you saying that all 47 of your members will not be voting for any individual piece? I mean, do you have
What I'm saying is that all 47 members of the Republican House Caucus will not support any individual piece of the budget until we see the entirety of the budget. Once the entirety of the budget is released, we will then assess the pieces of the budget and make our determination on which pieces we can and cannot support. But until we know what the budget is, we're not going to support the budget in subcommittee, in full committee, or if they get to the floor before they do that. And this is an important point to make. We did not get the balance sheet of the entirety of the budget last year until the fall of the final gavel in April. Now, in my previous years here, and I only chaired appropriations one time, 1 year, but every year that we release targets, we release the entirety of that target. It's not a difficult thing to do. That information should be out now. And until we see that information, we will not be supporting any budget bills.
Do you have enough Democrats on board to block legislation if this moves forward?
Well, actually, the way it works is the Democrats have enough votes to pass any legislation that they desire. Last year, however, if you look at vote totals, you will see that on some of the individual budget bills, that they were passed with Republican support, 52, 53 votes with maybe 3 or 4 Republicans. So if they do get to the floor without releasing the balance sheet, the essence is they will have to put up the 51 plus votes to pass those budget bills unless they have released the entirety of the budget, and then we'll assess whether that's something that our members can support. And that was an individual position by the caucus collectively.
But do you think that they have the 51 votes?
That would be a good question for you to ask the majority leader or the Speaker of the House.
You said you've asked repeatedly for the balance sheets and the rest of the targets. Have they given you any indication when you may see those?
No, we have asked since the targets were released. We've asked almost every day, every other day certainly, the minority leader and myself. I asked again this morning. It's not prepared yet, and they're working on it. And I do trust that they're working on it. But at some point, they have to know what they're going to do. And we've reached that point in the session when you're starting to move budget bills that we need to know where the revenue is going to come from and how we're going to spend it.
Kind of warning taxpayers that you're not going to support a pig in a poke, as that old saying goes.
Well, I think somebody had said to me the other day, you know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Or the other way around, I guess. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Last year, Republicans helped support individual pieces of the budget. In the fall of the gavel came, we found the final balance sheet came out. And when you support individual pieces of a budget and not knowing the full picture, there are surprises. And I think one of the things that Iowans have come to understand is that we have $1 billion of new spending in a 2-year period, a 20% increase in spending, and we're now trying to find a way to fill that gap of $350 million this year. And we're saying we're not going to do that again. I think it should be a bipartisan process. It should be something we can all work together on. Budgets should not be partisan issues. They're meeting the needs of Iowans. And we cannot support, though, budgets unless we know where the money's coming from and how it's going to be spent. Last year, as an example, we were told all throughout the session, from the governor's address on, that we were going to have property tax relief in the final budget. And we trusted that. And the final gavel came, and there was no property tax relief that had been included in the budget. So we really need to see what's in the entire budget. And it's not about Republican House members needing to see this. Iowans need to see this. Iowans need to know and understand how much money we're taking in and what we're going to spend it on. All right? Thank you very much for your time and coming down. And as soon as we get the balance sheet, we'll bring it back and tell you what we think about it.